It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnett Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with my co-host,
Barnett Bain, here with his
scratchy voice.
I thought it was more of an FM voice.
Oh, that's good. We'll play it that way.
I want to play it that way.
We're on AM radio, but
Yeah.
you've got an FM voice. That's fantastic.
It's like taking you on through midnight hours. We're going to do
I think
some smooth jazz.
yeah.
We'll be back after the break, here with you till the morning.
Hey, did you hear that we're dorks?
Yeah, I heard we're dorks.
Someone posted on our
Big
Facebook page.
Big surprise, huh?
We
Here's the amazing thing. We've been on the air now for 14 months.
Yeah.
Took that long for somebody to notice.
Oh,
We're
well,
dorks.
we get bashed every once in a while, but one of the clips from last week's
Probably
show.
the earphones don't help,
Yeah,
right?
the earphones
All right,
are
let
not
me take
good.
them off till I need to put them on. Plus, I can't hear. I have such a bad cold, I can't hear anyway, with earphones or without.
That's hysterical. But the idea, not just dorks, we're complete dorks. And then they went on to say that it was...
Are we like each complete dwarfs, or are we half a dork
We'll
each?
have to clarify that. But the idea that they didn't like what we were talking about. You know,
No, it was dorky.
it was dorky.
Yeah.
I think...
How did that feel?
You know, it was. There's two parts to it. You know, we always talk about these fragmented aspects of
Yeah.
ourselves. This little part of me that's like, oh gosh, you know,
Yeah.
there's people out there that don't like me.
I think I'm strange and weird.
Yeah, this is the piece
And
that I
goofy.
think I want to start with because
We're going to circle back to this because it ties into our
This
guest.
is what
But
we're talking about
before
today.
we tip off that, I just want to explore this a little further.
right, go
I got to
ahead.
say that when I discovered, or when I had affirmation of my worst fear that I'm a dork, it didn't feel that good.
yeah, that I'm strange or that you know my thoughts are marginal and
And that I can be dismissed. And now, I'm not saying for a second, folks, that let me say what I am saying. I am saying that all of those feelings I already hold about myself.
right.
In addition to a whole bunch of other feelings, I also hold feelings that are very empowered and very exciting. But I also hold this sort of little basket of shadow that I'm not good enough, and that what I'm doing is dumb, and that I'm worried about my status, and I'm worried about how I look, and all of that stuff. And so when there's somebody in the outer world that writes in and says, "You guys are not just dorks, complete dorks,"
And
it
you're
triggers-
embarrassed. No, but she
and
said,
you're an
I'm
embarrassment.
embarrassed by you.
Yes,
I'm
you're-
embarrassed.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed for you.
Yeah. I had another one. That wrote in and said, "You have no heart. You're all in your head. You have no heart, and I'm praying for you." So what's interesting is this sort of feedback is such a trigger because it wires up to these old beliefs and feelings, and we never ever get past them. So here I am with my dorky, scratchy voice, as though I'm 13 years old and my voice is cracking, and I'm reading this, and I'm feeling like I'm 13 years old.
Right.
So,
And
to bring this around full circle, it's an interesting synchronicity, an interesting coincidence that this would come up
today
on
Yeah.
the morning that we have with us our guest, who has made a quite extraordinary documentary chronicling a number of things. On the surface, it chronicles an experience that he had of opening up to energies and to senses, experiential senses beyond the norm, shall we say. I'll let him unpack it. But what makes this documentary so powerful is the subtext. And the subtext is really what we're just talking about now. It's the affront to your sense of self, to your persona. And this is a movie about his struggle about being vulnerable and authentic with this new experience vis-a-vis the pushback that comes from the world, most of which we self-generate.
Right, and this entire show, our show, Cutting Edge Consciousness, the whole point of the show for us is what's our edge? What is the place at which we begin to get uncomfortable? Where is it that we start to see reflected back to us?
Yeah.
You know what we're risking, because you and I keep jumping off these. I'm going to call them little cliffs, but some are actually quite big cliffs in terms of coming to the edge of, wow, here's the point at which I become really uncomfortable. This is the part where this feels weird or it feels too intense. We've talked so much about, these capacities. Capacity, one of the pieces of the film, I probably should save this, but I'll go ahead and say it. One of the pieces I loved in the movie was when our guest... Oh, heck, you're going to have to introduce him first before I go with
Why
this.
don't we introduce him? Let's bring him on, because otherwise we're going to get off on a tear. And
we want to get...
Well, we're so glad.
We want him with us.
Come back next week, and hopefully Jonas will be here with us next week, and we can get into it. So our guest is Jonas Elrod. And I'm going to put in my earphone here, just in case I know he's on.
Jonas, you look like a dork.
I do look like a dork, don't I? God, a complete dork.
It's embarrassing.
Jonas, who is not a dork, was leading an ordinary life until one day he woke up to this totally new experience of reality. He could suddenly see and hear angels and demons and auras and ghosts, his experience of all of this kind of energy. He went out and he made a documentary, and the documentary is called Wake Up, and it follows this fascinating story of this average Joe, this average Jonas, who inexplicably one day has to confront these new abilities and has to kind of make peace with how much it shakes up
his world,
the comfort of his familiarity zone. So we are very, very blessed to have Jonas with us this morning. Joe, are you on the line?
I am. How you doing, guys?
Oh, we're thrilled to have you, man.
We're pretty good.
This movie held my attention from beginning to end and moved me in so many ways. It's a beautiful, beautiful film, and it's going to air on the OWN network.
This Sunday it premieres, Sunday morning on the Oprah Winfrey Network on the Super Soul Sunday segment, which is Sunday the 16th of October, and please check local listings. We will refer to this again at the end of the show.
So welcome, Jonas.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. And I appreciate, the dork talk for a couple minutes before my lead on. That's very good for me.
You feeling a little dorky, dude?
Yeah. No, I kind of work with destroying all the identity stuff, but it's still in there. So the dork thing never really hit me because I've always been really, really cool.
We saw the movie.
We are too.
We saw the movie. I'm thinking of getting a mohawk because then I won't have to deal with the dorky thing.
I mean,
what was your edge? What were you dealing with?
I'm sorry?
What was your edge? What were the feelings that came up for you?
Throughout the film?
What were the feelings of discomfort vis-a-vis having to shift your perception of yourself and how others saw you?
Oh, it was no day at the beach. I mean, the kind of grand irony around all this is I don't even know how open I would have been about the subject matter if, like, a close friend had come to tell me about it. In the film, I'm from the Deep South and a very God-fearing culture. So hearing about these different stages of consciousness or meditation or chakras, this was all Latin to me. So when these, channels opened up, it was kind of felt like being thrown in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean without being able to swim.
Yeah, and now here's my question. How do you feel now? Because it's one thing to make the film and sort of be out there trying to get the film for someone to pick it up. Oprah's picked it up, and it's about to be seen by, some number of millions of people. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. It's really a weird feeling because I'm incredibly grateful around it, but I'm also don't feel as attached as I used to. There's definitely a part of me that really wants to get this information out, in the context of a documentary. But I don't really feel nervous. I'm just kind of even around it. That's probably all going to change in about 48 hours.
Yeah.
And change dramatically in the next 6-7 days. But, we made a very real documentary, warts and all, and I think this can be very helpful for a lot of people that are going through such openings or even, the big questions of life kind of coming back to you. For me, this opening was this very metaphysical, supernatural sort of way, but there are a lot of people who are questioning, and that sometimes comes through pain and suffering. So I'm hoping that this will maybe kind of a map for some people that are struggling with these issues.
Well, I think that more important than anything else, it is a map, and it models a way to respond to the challenges of big change in a very, very powerful way. And what I'd like to ask you about is how it felt. What feelings did you experience when your identity, excuse my voice here, but when your identity and the way that you held yourself for so many years was suddenly challenged? How did you feel about having to restructure yourself?
Well, I mean, that's an excellent question. I mean, I definitely ran the gamut of emotions. You know, I was, my early 30s when this started, and a very much, I guess, a cocky, old-school punk rocker at that point. So my identity was very much intact of thinking this is the way the world works, this is who I am. The kind of humor in all this is through these experiences, which were beautiful and absolutely terrifying at times, really show me a whole different way of looking at it. And so, I had to really do a lot of internal work to kind of clean up a lot of these ego wounds that, we all have. But
you want to talk about those a little?
I'm sorry?
You want to share some of those?
Well, share what cleanup or?
Yeah, what are you working on cleaning up?
What was there that came up that you didn't know that suddenly you felt you had to clean up?
Oh, everything. I mean, one, my whole belief on what the meaning of life is or what happens to you when you die, that whole changed for me seemingly overnight. And so, a lot of anger arose where I thought it was this way. And like I said, from my kind of God-fearing background, that wasn't my experience firsthand at all. It was completely different than that. And just, when the parameters of your reality start to open up, we're all fairly frightened of the unknown. And so I had like a day-to-day experience where I guess having access to these different levels was, like I said, no day at the beach, but, in time I started learning different tools on how to control that and how to work with it. But you still are left with doing the internal work of trying to clean yourself up.
Never ends, brother.
It never ends.
That's
the kind of funny thing. It's like we all have it. I just became completely clear and apparent on what mine was.
Yeah.
And so we get a lot of people. We've been doing a lot of screenings, and it's been really emotional for a lot of people. But the point that we're trying to make isn't about all these different realities or spirits or whatnot. Really, it's the idea of connectivity and cleaning up because we're all connected.
And there's two parts of this film that I want to offer my personal experience with. One was when you're in the Buddhist retreat.
Joan Halifax?
Yeah, with Joan Halifax. And your wife gets very emotional. She's talking about her name and her role in a particular paradigm that you guys seem to... I'm going to use some language, and this may not be your language, but, you might call it a soul contract. So the two of you are working something out. Let me speak personally then. I'll just say about my wife and I. I sometimes become very aware of the path my wife and I must follow, or seem to be following, that's drawing us deeper. And there's two parts to this. One is the experience of her getting very emotional, and then there's this moment of clarity like, oh my gosh, that's the role I've played in the opening that is both your opening and her opening simultaneously. That's part A. And then part B was when you were talking... I can't remember his name. The acupuncturist, you actually went to his place in upstate New York, and he said you'd asked him about a spiritual practice. He said the spiritual expression that he was recommending to you, he said, go love your woman. He said, you want to go deeper? Here's what you do. Go get really intimate with the woman in your life. That'll take you deeper. So those two pieces are like puzzle pieces that fit together for me. And I was sitting there with my wife watching on the couch, and I got totally filled and went, oh my gosh, that piece right there. That's my sort of heavy lifting. You want to talk about my edge on a daily basis? That's it right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is, to me, kind of the trick with it. And Mara, who I guess you would say, archetypal speaking, is a skeptic. We got together and we were very much in love. And when I laid all this stuff out for her, that I was having these experiences, she was skeptical and terrified. One, he's gone crazy, or, what does this really mean for her paradigm? So she had like you were mentioning with Joan, she kind of looked at the mirror and understood her place in this, which really helped both of us. And, I get that it was completely symbiotic. When she learned something, she brings it to me and vice versa. And the idea of standing naked in front of someone, warts and all, is something that we try to do on a daily basis and remain conscious of it, because it does help you go deeper, most certainly.
I want to add a little piece to this. That moment impressed me as, for me, the most powerful moment of the movie, because it modeled such an intensity, and by that I mean being fully present in the present tense. There wasn't a bunch of history. There wasn't a bunch of worries about the future. Your girlfriend or your wife, Mara, was so fully present with her impact on you, and she had a sense of connection with her own purpose. Suddenly, her own life in relationship to you made sense. She felt seen, heard, known. And the emotion that comes through her is so beautiful and so powerful. And to me, that is what models. That is the model that allows for a map to be made for others to follow, to be vulnerable and close and tender with your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions without armoring. And when we're that open, answers begin to come, the mirrors begin to become clearer.
And people light up. I mean, literally. People, and you know this from the way you view the world, that literally, you talk about auras. Like, when people I'm in that intensity, people light up. The energy is just intense.
Amen.
Yes, people light up. That is the gift of the movie, is that you create a map, and the map is one of vulnerability.
That's it.
And respect, in a different way of framing respect, that you model the ability to be present with your feelings and your thoughts, and without denying them. That's self-respect, and that to me is the map and the gift and the grace of the movie.
Well, thank you very, very much. I mean, a lot of people have called the film different things, but I've always thought of it, Mary has too, that it's a love story. People think it's this metaphysical sort of thing or this spiritual film, but ultimately, I think it is about just having the human experience of being vulnerable and going deeper. Well,
there's a part of your vulnerability, though, I want to speak to. As a man, and Barnett and I have talked about this quite a bit, we were taught to...
Are you speaking now as a man or a dork?
Man, it happens to be a bit of a dork.
Don't go on dorky.
All right, but this may actually relate to the dorkiness.
All right.
As men, we were taught to know things. Like, we really had to know, right? And I think about early sexual experiences where I didn't know anything. And, of course, I'm acting like I'm knowing because I'm supposed to know. And it was terribly awkward and, kind of horrific. But this whole knowing. So for us as men, and this goes back to what Barnett spoke to you about in the very beginning when you were saying, I had an identity as a punk rocker. It helped inform the way I viewed the world and my sort of position and all these things. And what you were forced to give up in a particular way was all of that. And you stepped into I don't know with a kind of courage that, yes, it made you dorky. I mean, I'm thinking of you now trying to find the image that you had drawn of your life purpose when you were at the ranch, Jay-Z's ranch up there, and you were stepping in mud and you were totally awkward. And I had so much love for you, by the way, as a brother right then. It's this sacred I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about right now?
Absolutely. I'm glad you saw that. And I think that thing at Jay-Z, Ronthal School of Enlightenment, was a metaphor of the whole snapshot of me struggling and stumbling to understand. So
that's the offer to men. See, because I think, you were talking about the impact this can have. It's interesting because, at the end when you get super clear after your vision quest, that's awesome. But for me, the gift, a huge part of the gift, besides the moment with your wife, was you just flailing, brother. I had so much love and compassion for you, and I saw the mirror of oh my gosh, he's me. And it gave me permission for my own, I'm going to call it not knowing.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. That's really nice to hear. I mean, when this came about, I thought it was going to be a very different thing. And, I've done documentary films before, and I thought I would just be this kind of narrator kind of guy. But it kind of got pushed more and more, where it's no, it needs to be, more raw, more about humanity, not these clever little comments you make on the side. So it was definitely more than a challenge to do this, but I'm certainly glad glad I went through with it, because it does seem to be helping some people. So I feel very blessed around that. And
Totally.
especially with Mara, I mean, it just wouldn't have worked without her kind of playing the skeptic and the back and forth. So I'm really happy with how it came out, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it.
So it's clear that you have a commitment to expanding your relationship to that mystery and to spirituality and to consciousness, however you're framing it. Does the same hold true for Mara?
Well, Mara's got her own thing going on. I mean, I guess depending on the lens you look to it, I mean, Mara and I don't sit around the bedroom talking about quantum physics and the meaning of life, but what we do, or when challenges arise or, rewards arise, if you want to look at it that way, we always look at with a bigger picture on how this is serving and how we're supposed to proceed. So I think it really was a process of helping us soften the ego. Like this, kill your ego. I don't buy that. I mean, I don't think that ego can kill ego, but I do think you can soften it up. And
If we met, fortunately, it never can happen anyway. We wouldn't even be able to open the door.
Yeah.
Whereas you need your ego to actually identify the doorknob.
You need your ego to survive in this realm. So that's just some of these kind of platitudes that people take and run away with, which,
yeah,
it is what it is. But I think the whole point was just to really soften up and understand that connection, and even on an energetic level, know that everything is connected and there is no us versus them. And on a relationship level, I mean, that's changed everything. It's been a tremendous gift.
Yeah, it's wonderful to watch because it's very human. And, again, going back to that moment where, help me with his name, the gentleman who you went to his place in upstate New York.
His name is Abdi Asadi. He's a acupuncturist. And
that's why I can't say his name. Even after you said I can't repeat it. He's got a tough name. But him, that guy, when he was talking to you, again, about this challenge of going back to your relationship with your wife and making it real. And he said something else just about this. Some people kind of refer to it as duality, that, there's physical world reality, there's this spiritual dimension. It's the merging of the two or the negotiating of the two. And they sort of, go along, but there are still bills to be paid. There are still, in my house, there's still children to be dressed and all these other pieces that really say, wow, you want to test my spirituality? You want to really take it to the next level? The kids are screaming, the bank account's empty. Now we got some spiritual work to do. That piece of your relationship, to me, was really fantastic to watch.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, I mean, you're bringing up a great point because, the problem with this whole spiritual community is a lot of people become ungrounded and they're kind of floating in the ether somewhere. I mean, yeah, all these responsibilities you talk about are very much part of it. I think there's a deep romanticizing of being on a spiritual path as you're walking around in sackcloth and meditating in a cave. Well, that's fine, but, there's a lot of practicalities that seem to get overlooked. And also, I think that you can become addicted to searching as opposed to looking at
Yeah.
and that was kind of the real gift of messages Abdi had told me, and Llewellyn Von Lee, who's a Sufi mystic, is that you can really get high on the searching, but it's another addiction. You're still avoiding, the thing you need to be looking at. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely a big part of the picture that I hope is coming through for people.
What is up for you next, Jonas?
In terms of
life, love, career, passion, spirituality.
Because at the end of this, we care about you. I mean, I'm very connected to what you're going to do next. What's the plan?
Well, I mean, the plan kind of unfolds as it shows up. The big thing that this taught me was, as an arrogant, younger man, I realize I'm not driving. I'm just riding in the car. So I really try to stay conscious and awake and look at signs. As far as professionally, I mean, my goal is to get these truths out however way that I can, and just share this information, not by preaching, but just by getting it out there. Because I feel
what specifically? Anything specifically coming up, or are you being a little cagey?
I'm working on a follow-up feature. I'm a commercial director out of New York. I think I'm getting ready to relocate to L.A. with Mara. So, we're talking about starting a family. So we're
That's awesome.
We're busy bees right now, but we're just trying to make sure we keep this in the center and don't get distracted or off balance, because, you see that all the time. And, it's definitely a challenge.
You do see it all the time. And more you see folks that are able to do them and maintain balance and keep in integrity and do the dance. And there are maps that are being made by people like you, and unfortunately there are others who have made some maps to follow. So I think that this is the best and most exciting of times. I want to invite you to share any information, website.
We know it's airing Sunday, October 16th, again on OWN Network. Check your local listings. Anything else website-wise for you, Jonas, that people can check you out?
Sure. We're at wakeupthefilm.com, and we're on Facebook. I think it's Facebook, / Wake Up the Film. But, one of the things that's been really nice is when we've been touring the film, a lot of people come and they share their stories. So it becomes very symbiotic, and for some people it seems to give them a release. So what's nice is I feel like I'm still learning every time I go out and interact with the film. And, I guess this is hopefully what will happen is we'll keep building. There'll be a critical mass because things desperately need to change. And I think that if some of this information was found, it could really start to shift the planet.
It would. Nothing changes till you do, as many of my friends and teachers constantly tell me. We have to take a break. I thank you again, Jonas, for being with us today.
Yeah,
and being with you today, and all of the above. Would you hang on the line a minute while we go to break? Because I just want to connect with you for a second, and we will be right back on Cutting Edge Consciousness.